Namaste and welcome to our current affairs show. We have an exclusive for you today. You're hearing it on Citti for the first time. With me today are two very well-known figures from the Christian community who are very popular on social media and also known for their tireless work and advocacy against the absurdities, duplicity, and iniquities of the Christian faith. Jerome Anton ji and Esther Dhanraj ji. Let me give you some context. Ashwini Upadhyay, a lawyer, has filed a PIL in the Supreme Court seeking a ban on conversions. If this becomes a reality, one of the primary breaking forces of India, which is the evangelical Christianity or the Christian church, will have tough times ahead. Jerome G and Esther G have also filed impleading applications under this PIL that basically provides additional grounds to the PIL already filed and also pledges their support to Ashwini Ji's initiative, which is laudatory in every sense of the word. Jerome Ji and Esther Ji, namaste and welcome
Namaste,
to our show.
Pujita ji.
Namaste, Pujita ji.
I would like to start with Jerome Ji first, basically, you have because you are still a practicing Christian, Jerome Ji. So this might surprise some of our viewers. My question to you is, since you are a practicing Christian, you have not disavowed the faith. You go to the church. What makes you support this PIL, and why do you have anything against conversion, which is conversion is one of the primary goals of the Christian organizations, right? So shouldn't you be more sympathetic to the Christian cause?
I'm very sympathetic to the Christian cause because this nation of ours has given us the privilege to practice our religion. But the biggest concern which I foresee affecting the sovereignty and integrity of our nation is this, that this inclusive nature of our Sanatan Dharma has been mistaken as tolerance, because of which the agenda is to convert the whole nation, because that's a pious duty of every Christian. Now, we as a nation have the Sanatan Dharma has survived for thousands of years. It is only because of it's being a Sanatan Dharma. The Europeans came, the Mughals came, they were not able to destroy our nation because of the strong legacy that we had. Now, as we see, there is an aggressive move to convert India to an Abrahamic religion, whether it can be an Islamic religion or a Christian religion. And once India loses the Sanatan Dharma, then India will be another Pakistan or a North Korea or any nation which will go unruly. So, keeping this in mind is why I felt it is very important as a practicing Christian to support Ashwini Upadhyay's PIL to force the government to take cognizance of the conversion and then ask the Supreme Court to send a directive to the government to take this very seriously and at a national level debate and impose the anti-conversion law.
Right. Jerome Ji, a lot of people might say, well, what's wrong with having people convert their faith? I mean, if people want to convert out of their choice, what's wrong with it? After all, Sanatan Dharma is an all-embracing, sort of for want of a better word, religion, and it has always embraced different faiths, and it by itself there are so many strands of belief systems within the faith. So what is wrong? What would you say to such people? What would you say?
Unfortunately, this I've heard this many a times, and it is the Hindu community which has been asking me. Um, Probably, I want to ask each of them who asked this question: Had this question been told 500 years back, when 1498, when Vasco da Gama came to India and discovered India, and then the missionaries came, had anybody told it's just they've come for trade, nothing else, probably somebody would have laughed. And we know what are the repercussions for the last 500 years of European rule. They were Christians. They didn't come to convert India. They came to plunder India. And we know what happened. They were literally responsible for the genocide and the loot of our nation. So the whole Christian conversion uh, has camouflaged itself into what you call service oriented, calling it pious religion, and then somehow it wants to convert the nation. Now, what happens is this: as we all know, the Abrahamic religion expects subjugation, undue allegiance to the religion. And we see that in the last 60, 70 years, seven states have become Christian states, and the Hindus have become minority in the last 70 years. For example, in Tamil Nadu, Kanyakumari, which is one of the temple towns, the population is 40% Christians. Now, you know what is happening in Tamil Nadu. This is going to result in rebellion. Let me quote you one simple example before you ask the next question to Esther ji. For example, the repercussions. Let me tell you what is it. I'm sure many of them will say, "What is wrong?" What happens is this. For example, if you look at Mizoram, a couple of years back, a constitutionally appointed governor, because he was a Hindu, the Mizoram, Christian people from Mizoram rejected him, saying that he's a Hindu. We do not want a Hindu governor. This is what these are all EWS, I would say, EWS, early warning systems. This is what the government, the administration, and the people take to take cognizance and take corrective measures immediately. Otherwise, we are going to foresee the destruction of our nation.
Esther ji, the question will come to you now. So, Esther ji, my question to you is that, every day some video or the other comes to light, where there is a preacher or pastor or somebody who denigrates Bharat, spews venom or simply mongers fear, right? So recently, in fact, there's a video of late that has been circulated on WhatsApp where there's a preacher probably from Hyderabad or some part of Andhra who is actually seen in front of an audience. He's addressing an audience and he's saying, what is a cause for celebration? Why should we be wishing each other Happy New Year? Because do you know that, and he's telling the members of the audience that any one of you could be stabbed anytime or killed anytime. This is not a time for celebration. This is a very grim time because there's a genocide going on of Christians in India. Now, this is ludicrous at some level, but it is also very dangerous, right? Because this is the kind of fear that is being created among Christians by so-called leaders of the community. So I would like you to talk a little bit about this aspect of the falsehoods that is being spread, because you mentioned several examples in your application.
So, Pujita ji, Christians are masters at playing victimhood, and their long history of crying foul that actually began with the alleged persecution of the disciples, whose existence history could not even confirm beyond reasonable doubt. So, unless they exaggerated those persecution tales, Christianity would not have taken off the ground. So faith is in its place, and history has a certain place in the history of religions, right? So when you look at the history of Christianity, the truth is it is Christianity that slaughtered everyone else, every other culture, and stole their land. I don't have to give you examples. The Americas, Europe was pagan. It was taken over. The culture was annihilated, and it is Christian today. Well, most of it. It was Christian for a very long time. So there's a scholarly consensus, okay, about this persecution that has emerged, saying that Roman persecution of Christians was sporadic, and at least some Christian martyrdom, scholars say, were stories. Martyrdom stories were tall tales that the theologians have built, created. So this is a scholarly consensus. I'm not telling this. Now I'll give you some examples of who said these things. There's a New Testament scholar working at University of Notre Dame, Candida Moss. So Moss says that the ancient stories of church persecution have created a contemporary cult of bogus Christian martyrs. And Christians act as if they are members of a persecuted minority who are being thrown to the lions every single day across the globe by people who do not agree with them, or who simply disagree with their philosophy, with their religious thought. So if you go all the way back to the early Christians, okay, there's this claim that Romans systematically persecuted the early Christians. That's a very big lie. You know why? Because the Romans did not care about Christians. They were such a minority, and Rome was concerned with just expanding its empire. They never bothered about the small fringe group that took birth in first century. So the Romans never, and to persecute somebody systematically, state sanctioned persecution would require a lot of resources, right? A lot of money, and Rome was not willing to spend that kind of money, because this is not a big group. It was not challenging Rome's hegemony. It was, so Rome was only concerned about its hegemony and spreading it. And any group that did not challenge Rome's hegemony, Rome would not spend money on persecuting them. It's time, money, manpower, everything. And Rome was not for spending all this on them. Well, they were, like I said, they were sporadic, the scholars say, and there were a handful of scattered deaths, killings, definitely, but not like a genocide. And I mean, those are very big words. And the reason Christians throw those words so frivolously is because they are the ones who are engaged in that. So, why do they do this? So, the problem with invoking persecution is, I mean, the advantage of invoking persecution is it implies your opponents are evil. And there is no common ground. And who are Christians? Very compassionate, loving, and they're so peace loving. They become bearing gifts and peace and kingdom of God and all that. So anybody who is evil, we do not have common ground with them, and through the love of Jesus, we are going to annihilate you. So no questions asked, because you're persecuting us. So persecution, invoking persecution will show the opponent in evil light. So there is another example of another person called Reverend Robert Morgan. He's the author of some 365 amazing and inspiring stories about saints, martyrs, and heroes. Now he wrote about martyrs, Christian martyrs, and here's what he says. He says that some of the accounts of martyrdom were undoubtedly embellished. Many of the persecution stories were handed down in an atmosphere of confusion and pressure. So there's another guy called Gail O'Day, and he is the dean of Wake Forest University, Wake Forest University School of Divinity in North Carolina. So he says that when you actually read the Roman historical records, the Christians just weren't that important to them, what I just said. And most Christians just got along with the empire. So they did not rub the Roman Empire on the wrong side. You see what I mean? So as long as Rome did not get challenged in its ways, Rome did not bother about those groups. Rome only quelled those movements which challenged their hegemony. So Christians were not that powerful back then. So the persecutions are just tall tales of theological tall tales.
This habit of claiming persecution seems to go back a long way, right? Whenever something doesn't go their way, or they find themselves out of depth in a particular situation, or they find in a demographic situation where they're not in large numbers, they seem to say, "Hey, persecution, persecution." This seems to be a habit that seems to go back a long way.
Right.
Um,
But also, I also want to add here, just look at the world map. And if you color code the world map, and let's say we are color coding Christian regions in blue, you know how vast area on the globe it's going to be blue?
of course.
The land covering the Americas, New Zealand, Australia, North Asia, southern half of Africa, Europe, Greenland. I mean, all these are large land patches and they're all Christian. So, what persecution are they talking about?
Exactly. Jerome ji, let me come to you. So what Esther ji said is pretty, it's pretty pertinent. But I want to focus on how their tactics change. With because Christians have seem to be very smart in terms of how they use their strategies. Of course, in terms of conversions, and then the way they keep changing their narrative. So I would like you to talk about initially it used to be only about converting people. Now they seem to have changed their tactics a little bit. They're even talking about, or making anti-national statements, saying things like, for example, like Esther G was saying earlier when I was talking to her, that they seem to have a great problem with symbols that represent our nationhood, like Bharat Mata being represented as a goddess, for example. There was a recent incident in, I think, 2-3 years ago in Kanyakumari when there was this whole controversy over the Bharat Mata statue, where they vandalized the statue because Kanyakumari is, I think, nearly 40-45% Christian today. So, could you talk a little bit about that anti-nationalism? Where is that coming from?
So, I think many of us do not know that Christianity today is multi-denominational. It currently works like a multi-level marketing organization which believes in only ensuring that there are subscribers to it. So, for example, the largest church in India is the Roman Catholic Church. It has its own modus operandi. What it said 500 years back has taken a 360-degree change now, because now if you see, all the assimilation of Hindu culture is only done by the Catholic Church. Just last week they announced in our church that on the 15th of January they are going to celebrate Pongal in the church. This is abomination as per the Catholic Church. If somebody had told this 100 years back, they would have been burned to the stake, right? Today, so the church has placed different tactics, and each denomination's idea is to somehow either convince, confuse, or con the people to become Christians. So on one side we have the Roman Catholic Church post the Nicene Council. They understood that it is not possible to convert the indigenous people unless and until they adapt the indigenous people's practices. So that is exactly what you see today. You find them suddenly promoting the Hindu way of life, literally gobbling Hindu culture. For example, yoga was a taboo. Today, there are Christians propagating yoga. Okay, there are a lot of other practices which they've adapted because they understood that the Hindus are very strong in their practices. They will not be able to convert unless and until they adapt them. That is on the one side. The other side is the splinter churches, which is more dangerous and more I would call them they're cultural terrorists because they are the people who are against Bharat Mata. They are the people. So it's an entirely different game altogether, and there's no regulation there.
What are splinter churches? I
Churches, it
didn't.
means that they are unorganized churches. It is like this. There is no franchisee, there is no royalty. I don't have any allegiance to anybody. I open my own church. It's unregulated. Unfortunately, in India, there is no regulation of churches because I can build my own church. I can have my own concept of Jesus and I can do what I want. And strangely, surprisingly, shockingly, our constitution allows that to happen for the Christians and the Muslims. And they have used it so much to their advantage that they are able to build empires today. So we have different factions. I would say different factions. Why I'm saying factions is this because if you put all these people who all talk about Jesus, if you put them in a room, they will all discuss, debate, and kill each other. Because they will not agree about who is the right Jesus for them. Everybody wants Jesus. I jokingly say sometimes, if Jesus himself comes down to these churches, they will kill him also. So that is the danger that
Right.
this country is at the cusp of. It's at the cusp, because they need to act on it, and that is why we have been alerting everybody, saying that this is like cancer; it will eat you from inside, and one fine day you will see the dead body of this nation.
Right. When you say that, we are at a critical stage, because I remember a few years ago, until 10, 15 years ago, this proselytization activity was largely restricted to the south, in Andhra Pradesh or Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Kerala, but you never saw it so much in the north of the Vindhyas. Today you see such, when you watch these videos online, mass conversion activities happening in Punjab, for example, or now I've saw some videos emerging from Rajasthan, UP. So this is very, very scary, very troubling, because it's obviously spreading everywhere. So yeah, like you rightly pointed out, something needs to be done, and perhaps this PIL is very timely, and I'm glad that the two of you are also kind of
Why?
supporting. Yes.
Okay, so there's a strategy. Always see that is where the problem is. That is where we all need to wake up because conversion designed, engineered on the in a conference room. That is what is happening on India because if you, as you rightly said, initially it was the south. So what happens is that these missionaries will look at where they can create divisions among the people. They'll say which are the vulnerable people, where they can isolate. For example, if you look at the example of Rwanda, simple, this the size of the nose, the shape of the nose, they divided them, and then the church engineered genocide of people. The church was hand in glove, literally patronized this genocide. And the Roman Catholic Church, the Pope, refused to apologize until recently. He took personal responsibility and said, we are sorry for whatever has happened. So likewise, the church is a mastermind in terms of strategy. They want to know where there is vulnerability. So once they're able to get inroads in the south, they found there are loopholes in the tribals, in the remote villages. So they went there. They will initially why didn't they touch the north? Because the north is a little more stronger and harsher. Because had the missionaries gone there, they would have got chopped off those days. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yes,
those
those
days.
days. Yes.
So now they have got a good stronghold in the south. Now they are venturing into the northern part of the country and across the other parts of the globe.
Mhm. Esther ji, could you talk a little bit about because your impleading application talks a lot more about the hate speeches, and the seditious nature of some of these preachers and pastors and Christian members of the Christian organizations. So, could you talk a little bit about that? Because that seems to be a clear departure from just converting people or bringing the good word of the Lord to the people. There is something that is very insidious going on over here.
Yes, Pujitaji. So, recent times we have seen to what extent these people have, or how low these people have stooped. Uh, Initially, it was just the denigration or demonization of our devis and devatas. From there, it moved to demonization of national symbols, especially because India personifies herself as Bharat Mata. India is personified as Bharat Mata, and the adornment is all, at least they perceive it as Hindu, whereas we see it as cultural, right? So they say that Bharat Mata is all Hindu. So Bharat Mata has to be demonized. In fact, she has to be removed from the symbology or the symbolism of India. India should not be portrayed as Bharat Mata. But because it is portrayed as Bharat Mata, you can abuse her, you can demonize her, you can say pretty much anything to her. And case in point is one pastor from Telangana, from Hyderabad, who went on to ask on camera, on public platform, he asked how many husbands does Bharat Mata have? And this he said in the context of Hindus worshipping several gods. So he is equating all those gods to the husbands, to be the husbands of Bharat Mata. So that is the level of. So the point I'm trying to make here is, from abusing devis and devatas, now they have come to abusing national symbols and national heritage. Another person, very prominent Christian, who is followed by tens of thousands of youngsters because he runs a Bible university, he says that the national flag, the Tiranga, should bow down its head in shame, in front of the Jesus flags that are hoisted on top of his university building. And he also said national anthem sounds like the braying of a donkey.
Unbelievable. He
Yeah.
said that? Oh
Yes, he
my
said
God.
that. He said that. And then they got away. See, that's not the worst part. The worst part is they got away saying all these things. And there is a director, there's a person who works as a director in the Open University, Bible Open University. And he goes on to say, divide the country into two. Give us one half and we will never bother you again. Isn't that a threat, Pujita ji? So
Yes.
what he is technically saying here is, since you are bothered, Hindus, since you are bothered by us, so why don't you just divide this country into two and give Christians one half, and then we will never come back to bother you. So he is basically threatening here. We will continue to bother you until you divide this country into two. Now that amounts to sedition. The worst part, I'm just coming to that. The state governments across the country failed in bringing these people to even trial, because they are booked under very, very, very lenient laws, lenient sections. Now this amounts to sedition, right? And what is the punishment for sedition? It comes under section 124A of Indian Penal Code. And what is the punishment? Life imprisonment, or at least imprisonment for 3 years and fine. But guess what?
Hmm.
This person challenged that he cannot be arrested. There is no police in the entire country that will dare to arrest him, and he is right.
Nothing happened to him.
Nothing happened to him. No booking. So, the guy who denigrated the national flag and national anthem. These are cognizable, non-bailable sections, Pujitaji. And they always get away with the least case. Why? because the Hindu organizations suddenly go and they start pressuring the local police stations, which is why they are just booked under very, very small nominal sections. So, and not because the police or the state government finds fault with these guys. It books these sections only because there is pressure from Hindu organizations and Hindu individuals. So basically, sections 121 to 124 are cognizable and non-bailable sections, and everything that these people have been doing in the past decade, like inciting violence, attempting to wage war or abetting the waging of war against the government of India, these all fall under 121 to 124 sections, and these are all cognizable and non-bailable sections. Non-bailable sections. So what we are seeing here is a real abuse of law, not by these pastors but by the state governments, which is why the demand for see anytime such incidents happen, they are just said that, oh, there's no communal angle to it. For example, there was this incident that happened on Deepavali, 24th of October 22, and there is this neighbor, a Christian neighbor, and Hindu neighbor was a bunch of, I think, a group of girls who had come to the city to prepare for their civil entrance exams, IAS entrance exams. So if you actually look at that video, they decorated their doorway, their half of the doorway of the corridor, with rangoli and diyas. And this frustrated Christian neighbor comes out and she erases the rangoli with her feet and makes a ruckus, and her two grown sons come out and they actually abuse the girl
aggressively. Yes.
And guess what the sections were fastened on them?
With sections?
Very, very minor. And I think 595 or something. So guess what sections they were booked under? Section 506, which is criminal intimidation, and section 509, which is insulting the modesty of a woman. Whereas the actual sections that should have been fastened against these people were sections 120B, 153A, and 295A. Now let me read out to you what 153A and 295 are. So 153A is to punish people who indulge in wanton vilifications or attacks upon the religion, race, place of birth, residence, language, etc. of any particular group or class, or upon the founders and prophets of a religion. But nothing of that sort. In fact, there were several prominent media homes which went ahead and said that there was no communal angle to the whole issue.
Correct.
It's just a neighborhood brawl. So,
and often it is the Hindus themselves who want to cover up this situation. It is the Hindus themselves who will first come and say, no, it was not communal at all. In fact, it was this is a problem within the society. You see, what you just explained, Esther ji, is what would have happened if the reverse were to happen. What if the girls had pulled down the cross, or let's say a star? If the neighbor had put up a star on Christmas and the Hindu family had pulled out the star, what can you imagine what would have happened?
I think, yeah, that is so true. Yeah. So from denigrating Devis and Devtas, they come to national, anthem and national flag, all that, and then they have now. I mean, look at the phases. Look at the evolution. Now they have come to make individual attacks. So does the country still think that there should not be an anti-conversion law?
I don't know. Jerome ji, would you like to add something here in terms of, would you like to add something to what Esther ji was saying? Do you think that this is because anti-conversion law state-wise? I think if I recall, Tamil Nadu tried to do something during Jayalalitha's time in 2002 or 2003. Nothing came of it. I don't know if UP is trying to do something. I think Yogi Ji's government is trying to put something. If I recall, sometime back there was talk about it. But this would be a central law, right? It would be from the center. What do you think will be the implication of something like
See,
that?
that's a very interesting question. So, if you go back to the time of Jayalalitha's time, she introduced the anti-conversion law. She's one of the earliest chief ministers because she knew what was happening, and she had introduced the anti-conversion law, but with the same speed she had to withdraw it because of the pressure the Christian community and others put in. So that is the kind of power these missionaries and Christian communities can do. They can make or break law. They can influence policy decisions. This is the whole Abrahamic religion. For example, if you look at the CAA itself, the protest came from the Christian community, and so hypocritically they protested, though Christians from other nations were included in the CAA.
Included.
Yeah. So which
Correct.
actually proves that the Christian community in India is actually anti-Christian, right? Because they didn't want their brothers and sisters who were persecuted in these rogue nations like Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Afghanistan to be rescued. And this government was so magnanimous in their thought, in spite of Christianity not being an indigenous religion, they accommodated it. But look at the ungratefulness of the Christian community in this nation. They are capable of influencing and putting a spade in the wheel when it comes to policy decisions. Now, to add to this, what which in regards to the PIL, which I have also implemented, is this: India needs to be vocal about its existence. I think somewhere India is always being reactive, not proactive, because as per Article 12 of the United Nations, protection of indigenous people, we Sanatan Dharma, the indigenous people of this nation are the people from this nation, and they're indigenous in their practice. If we actually, I think somewhere the government needs to go on the offensive and say that as per the UN resolution, we need to be protected from these foreign religion, because the Abrahamic religion is not an indigenous religion; it is a foreign religion, and it is influencing our nation to convert. So somewhere this whole thing of practice, profess, and propagate need to be relooked. I've been campaigning on only one thing because I'm very convinced that the anti-conversion law will not really work unless and until you go to Article 25, look at practice, profess, and propagate. I quote an example like that of Sri Lanka. I just give an example because even in Sri Lanka constitution there is right to religion there. Everybody is free to practice, profess, and propagate. But but there is a rider to that law, the right to religion. It says that Buddhism is the state religion, and you cannot invade that religion. Likewise, India needs to wake up and say you are free to practice, but you cannot profess, you cannot propagate, and you cannot do any harm to the indigenous people of this nation. So that is where the whole crux of the problem is. Many of them do not know it. Unfortunately, even at the senior leaders itself, at the government level, at the administrative level, they're not aware of this problem. So the anti-conversion law would be one step ahead, but the actual problem can be resolved only when you amend the constitution. Okay, that is where the whole problem lies, because you're not plugging the problem. You're not plugging the problem. See, there is you are looking at everything else, but you're not plugging the problem. If you have to plug the problem, you have to remove propagate from the constitution and debate.
Remove the word
Yes,
propagate from the article.
see, because it gives a free hand to the Abrahamics to actually come and sell their religion, right?
Absolutely.
Like, for example, it's like this. you are given a free hand to come and sell your product, telling whatever lies you want. Whereas our own people, our own products, we don't do it. Likewise, religion also, the Abrahamics have got a free hand. That's why Article 25 is most abused article by the Christian community and the Muslim community, because it gives them a free hand. Unfortunately, the constitution is built in that, and it's time that we amend it. We have 100 plus amendments that have happened. I hope the government takes cognizance, because our own existence itself is on a question mark.
That's a very valid point you make, Jerome ji, because unless and until constitutionally changes, the very foundation is the constitution. So if it doesn't come from the constitution, because I remember having a conversation with one of somebody, a Christian acquaintance, and this is what they said. They said that no, we have the right to propagate. He actually brandished the constitution in my face, and I couldn't say anything. I said, well, you can't use coercion, and I tried to kind of counter him. But at the foundation of it, when the constitution tells you can propagate, you have very thin counters to
Defenseless.
it.
We
So
are defenseless because it gives free hand to run institutions. It gives free hand to them. This is sacrilege, and we become underdogs. We are underdogs as of now. So these things the government need to take cognizance and be on a warfront, because currently there's a lot of pressure from different quarters across the globe. And hopefully the Prime Minister and his government will take serious measures to counter this.
right. Esther ji, you want to?
Pujita ji, yeah, I want to add here. See, Article 25 has to be read with the sub clause in it. So Article 25(1) definitely deals with the right to freedom of religion, wherein it gives protection to all the persons um, to freely practice, profess, and propagate. But when you read Article 25(2), it says nothing in this article, that is Article 25, shall operate the existence of any law or prevent the state from making any law.
Ah, okay.
So, it should be read, any article of the Constitution should be
Entirety.
read in entirety. So here it adds to our purpose of invoking Article 19(2). 19 subclause 2, which says that even if, I mean, they always say whenever there is something like hate speech happening, they say that it is the law and order of that state. But when you read Article 19(2), it says that it permits the government to impose reasonable restrictions upon the freedom of speech and expression in the interest of public order.
Public order.
So, Article 19, what is stopping state governments from using Article 19?
2, yes.
19(2), yeah, Article 19(2). So, Article 19(2) should be read with Article 25(2), and that is what this combination should be made use of by the union government. Union government should in fact exercise its power, and utilize these articles to make stringent law curbing the misuse of freedom of expression. So, Article 25 has to be definitely read in its entirety, and that is where the solution actually would lie. At least the beginning of a solution would lie there.
Absolutely. And coming from the central government, which is probably unprecedented, like I don't think anybody has filed a PIL at the Supreme Court on conversion. So this will be a very landmark kind of, whatever comes out of this. So my question is, what stage are we at in terms of this, of the process? And what do you think would be, do you think there's going to be a favorable outcome? Are you hopeful? What would you have to say to that?
This is going to be a long drawn battle, Pujita ji. It's not going to be easy. We haven't even gotten started yet. So we do not know. It's too early to think of any outcomes. We can just be hopeful of a positive outcome, favoring the nation. I'm not talking about favoring the Hindus or the culture or heritage, favoring the nation, because Christianity is not just changing one god to another. Christianity is not just Christianity encourages you to not only abandon your identity, Hindu identity, it even encourages you to hate your nation, and we have seen ample examples in recent times. Because Bharat Mata is Hindu, India is Hindu. So a Hindu India can never be a
Will
Christian's.
never be. Absolutely. Absolutely. Very true.
So that I feel is a threat to national security. And I would actually call conversions are recipes for anti-national sentiment.
Totally. Totally. I think was it Vivekanand ji who said that
Yes,
every convert from Hindu,
is not
One convert
is
to
not
is an enemy.
Hindu, one more enemy
It's
to
one
Hinduism.
more
Yeah.
enemy to the Hindus, and that is so true. I have experienced it in my life. I just wish more and more people wake up to this menace, this evil, this ill malaise that I think is conversion. This nobody has a problem with people practicing their faith. If you were to just go to the church, I mean, there's so many minorities in this country who do go about their business quietly. Nobody has a problem with Parsis. Nobody has a problem with, we have a small population of Hindus, Buddhists. Nobody has a problem, but you have a problem with the Abrahamics because they are so insistent on thrusting their way on the rest of the of humanity, which is the problem. So I do hope, Jerome ji, Esther ji, that even though this is going to be a long drawn process, it's going to be a long struggle, but it's a small step in the right direction, and it was long coming, and I'm so happy and I'm so glad that the two of you, I know you have to brave a lot of challenges because you come from the community. So my final question to the both of you would be that what do you think will come out of this entire journey or this PIL? What kind of outcome are you expecting from this?
Jaramji, you want to go first? Do you
yes,
have any
I have.
expectations?
So my expectation from this PIL is that the government gets serious about this menace, takes cognizance of this situation, because uh, it still, according to me, it still hasn't estimated the damage this whole menace would do to this nation, because it is actually challenging the sovereignty and integrity of this nation. Okay, so for me, anti-conversion law is not the solution, because our plea to the Supreme Court is this, that they send a directive to the government, the state administration, that's the central government, to take cognizance of this whole conversion activity and take appropriate action. And what I expect of an appropriate action is this: the government calls for uh, a team of members who know about the whole Christian conversion business, frame strategies, consult with them, and then make policies. Otherwise, if you're going to make blanket policies, it will only result in chaos. And second thing is, it will be more or less a toothless tiger. Like if you look at the anti-conversion law in all the states, 7 states, what has happened? It is just a namesake policy or a law. There is blatant conversion happening because the Christian missionaries are much smarter in knowing the law and beating the law right under the law. So it's going to be very tough. So my only plea to the government is this, to the state is this: unless and until you don't amend the constitution, nothing will work. Because on once then what happens is this: there is going to be confusion, because on one side you're saying the right to religion is there, and the other side is saying anti-conversion law. So what? It's a thin
Correct.
line. It's a thin line, and there's
Conflict.
good escape routes. Good escape routes if you are not going to amend the constitution. So that is the biggest thing. What I expect, that the government amends Article 25, which is Article right to religion, uh, profess and propagate to be knocked off for foreign religion. Foreign religion, right? Indigenous religion to exist, because otherwise we don't practice, we don't profess, we don't propagate. So it's
Correct.
important that we are protected.
Yeah, creating a level playing field, basically. So I have a question before I answer, Pujita ji and Jerome. Do you think I can, from my affidavit, can I bring in the
Yeah, yeah, please,
points?
yes, because it's in the open forum.
Okay, okay.
Your points are in the open forum.
Yeah. So Esther ji, what would you say to that? Jerome ji just gave his inputs as to what he would like to see come out of this.
Yes, yes.
What is your,
Sorry, sorry.
yeah, please go ahead.
I totally agree with Jerome ji. And one very pertinent point to be kept in mind is there should not be a blanket law. See, we are not against people walking into a church or opening the Bible out of their own volition and then converting, deciding to convert. We have no problem with those kinds of conversions. Non coercive, not forceful conversions, we welcome them. We've always done that for centuries. That's what Sanatan Dharma is all about, right? The only problem, the only thing we are saying is there should not be a coercive conversion, a forceful conversion. There should not be inducement. People should not be induced into conversions. That is what we are fighting here. And when we are talking about anti-conversion laws against forceful conversions, I do not understand why the entire pastor community, priest community of this country just stands up and resists it. I would say they should be the ones to welcome it. Because if you look at theology, a Christian becomes a Christian out of, it's a change of heart. It's not baptism certificate. It's not dipping in the water tank for getting baptized. It's a change of heart. So, by bringing anti conversion laws against forceful conversions, even the priests and pastors would be clear about whether people are converting out of force or they are converting out of love for Jesus. Shouldn't they be welcoming this to make their message more strong that Jesus converts, changes hearts, transforms hearts? So they should be the ones to welcome this, to make their theology, establish their theology in this country. Number one. Number two is when you ask me what do I expect. So I would say that yes, removal of profess and propagate should be there from our constitution, Article 25. That is when a level playing field will be created in this country, because the so-called majority religion does not profess or propagate.
Or even
So,
practice anymore.
yeah. So to make the level, the field level, this is what these two words should be removed for foreign religions. And my appeal to the Honorable Supreme Court would be to appoint a commission, a commission which can investigate matters from every nook and corner of this country and submit a report from the entire country regarding illegal offensive activities of Christian conversions. Uh, Especially those that happen through unconstitutional speeches, instigating violence, hurting religious and patriotic sentiments of people in general of India, and also a commission report on the inaction of state governments, not just on the illegal, unconstitutional activities and speeches of these people, of pastors, but also on the inaction of the state machinery, state governments, and the state law and order. And the second thing I would really appeal for is, after the submission of this report, our appeal to the Honorable Supreme Court would be, the court would invoke its jurisdiction under 142 of the Constitution of India for doing complete justice, for making a special law as mentioned under 25.2, Article 25.2 of Constitution, for curbing, preventing, investigating, punishing all those people that are engaged in deceitful and forceful conversions of Hindus to Christianity. So these are the two outcomes I honestly expect, Pujita ji, and that is when I think this tapasya will come to fruition.
So before we close today's talk, which has been very illuminating, Jerome ji, Esther ji, each of you could probably in turns make some closing remarks. You want to add something? Please
Yep.
feel free to do so.
Thank you. It's been a very enriching discussion that we had, and I'm sure it would put a spark in everybody's heart. What is important for all of us to understand in this nation is this. I've been quoting the statistics. I again quote the statistics on in front of you. There are 50 plus Islamic nations. There are 15 Christian nations. There are 7 Buddhist nations. There is even one Jewish nation. But then we are 15% of the world's population. We don't have a nation for ourselves. The only nation that we have is this, and that also is a secular nation, a botched up secular nation. So it's time to wake up. Please understand. Let us all understand. Let us not make the mistake of what the Jewish people did. Please let 2000 years, whichever part of the globe they went, they were persecuted. So Christians, Hindus staying different parts of the globe also need to realize that you also will not escape if India loses its identity. Because the Jewish people forget Israel, whichever part of the globe they were hunted down and they were killed, except in India, because India is the only nation which gave them shelter. So it's a wake up time for every Hindu's nation to say that I would blatantly say, as a Christian, as a practicing Christian, I am proud to say that I demand that this nation be declared as a Hindu Rashtra. And Hindus are very apologetic about it to ask this. You do not know why. You have only one nation for yourself, and you're ashamed to ask for a nation saying that we want a Hindu Rashtra. It's time to wake up. It's time to sing this anthem. I think everybody needs to ask for a nation of our own. And this is the only nation that we have.
Very true. Very true. Esther ji, do you want to add to that, or?
I I mean that was a very emotional statements that Jerome delivered. All I would say is just Jayatu Jayatu Hindu Rashtra.
Thank you.
Um, that was informative, inspiring, provocative, thought-provoking, and emotional and touching at so many levels. Jerome ji, Esther ji, you left. I'm sure you've left our viewers with a lot to think about. What Jerome ji said, especially, is makes a lot of sense. That we don't have a single Hindu nation in this world, yet everybody seems to decry the Hindu demand for identity. In our own land, it's not even as if we want to carve out a piece of land somewhere else. This is our land for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and all we're saying is, can't we call ourselves a Hindu land without having to feel apologetic about it? So thank you so much for this evening, and for the very brave step the both of you have taken, in terms of pledging your support to this PIL. I'm sure it comes with a lot of challenges in terms of, you must be facing a lot of flack, a lot of criticism from within the community. But I know you both are brave warriors, so I wish both of you a lot of strength, and my personal gratitude and the gratitude of the many who are watching for taking on this particular fight. Thank you so much, Jerome ji, Esther ji. We do hope that there is a favorable outcome, the kind that you described to this entire struggle.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. It was
Thank you
great
so much for
to be on your show. Thank you so much. Yeah.
yeah.
Thank
Thank
you
you so
so
much
much.
for having us, Pujita ji, and allowing us to put our word forward for the world to see.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste. And subscribers, viewers, please, if you enjoyed watching our show, if you've learned something from it, please share this with your friends. Comment, like. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe to our channel and please keep coming back. Namaste and Shubhratri. Thank you.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.